If you aren't inspired by Fatesta Bateman's story today, then you should probably find a way to test to see if you're even human. Fatesta has launched Della's House of Giving, named after her grandmother, and she is feeding hundreds of children in our community every day. She tells us all about how this idea came to life, the impact she's having, and what's next. Fatesta Bateman, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. I'm so excited to hear more about Della's House of Giving that you started this year. It's phenomenal. Give me a little insight into what that is.
Okay, so Della's House of Giving is a nonprofit organization, and we provide fundamental resources for children in underserved communities and aims at helping with reducing hunger and increasing literacy rates. Wow. So we feed hungry kids.
That's awesome. So huge. I want to dive into this. I first learned about you through Kimberly O'Neill and Cause Studio, and you've gone through that. That's where you started this whole process, correct?
Yes. So I was a part of her pilot program, and the program Cause Studio is to help nonprofits to really understand the business of nonprofit, because most of the time people think in nonprofit, they think it's not a business, or they think maybe it's a hobby or something like that. But, in Kim's program, we learned fast that it was more than just a hobby. So, but yeah, that was a 6-month program that I went through. And then she launched her full program, I believe, in September, and I'm a part of that. And it's been a wonderful experience.
I think it's so key, and I imagine you thrive in that because you are an entrepreneur already, and you bring that to everything, and I think that's great. So go into that for me a little bit on your background, like coming into this, kind of with a running start almost.
Yeah, so I was in corporate America. I was at the same job for about 13 years, and always wanted to do something different. I always knew that I was capable of doing something different. Always wanted to be an entrepreneur. I've done everything from owning my own barbershop, running a mobile drug testing business, baskets, you name it, I've done it. And it's been fun, and I decided to just kind of step out there and do something different. So I opened the Spa Bar, which is a event center downtown Dallas in the Design Warehouse District. Okay. And we do private parties, occasions, birthday parties, bridal showers, that type of thing. And this is our 6th year.
Oh,
so
nice.
So I decided that I wanted to do even more as far as the aspects of giving back to the community. I've always been passionate about volunteering and doing things in the community. I think is very important to do. So I kind of went down a different path in the nonprofit, and here I am with Della's House of Giving.
Awesome. That's so great.
Yeah.
So dive in a little bit to I want to touch on the Spa Bar experience so far. And so you said you just took a leap of faith there of saying like, oh, I think I can do this.
Literally.
Why? And why that particular?
Yeah, so a friend and I, we were looking to do a special type of event, and I was in charge of going around to all the venues, right, looking for the venues to kind of see where we would have it. And as I was going around, I found some really crummy venues. I found some really great venues, and I just really never knew what all went into, an event, right? Really.
Right.
So I thought it would be a good idea. We had an event. The event was was successful, and more people wanted to have wanted us back. They were like, "Hey, we should do this again." So I was like, "Wow, if I could just maybe find a place, and that would be kind of good to have this over and over again."
Yeah.
So I found a great space in the Design Warehouse District, and I put an ad on Craigslist, and my first customer came off of Craigslist. Yes.
That's fantastic.
Yes. It was Erykah Badu's sister.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so after that, it was just word of mouth, organic. We don't really do a lot of advertising or anything. Mm-hmm. So for the last 6 years, it's just been great. We've had a really great time there, and it's been a great experience.
Wonderful. Where does the name come from? What is it?
The name, the Spa Bar. It's a long story.
I want to hear it. I got to know.
Okay, so we had the event, right? And I've always felt that if you could do something with your hands, then you would have work forever. I just, for whatever reason, I don't know, I just thought, hey, if I could find something to do with my hand. So as I was leaving my corporate job, I knew I was going to have to find something to do, and I wanted to do something, of course, with my hands. So I went to massage therapy school.
Okay.
And I became a massage therapist. And so I thought about the concept. How would it be to have a space that you can have events, maybe spa parties and that type of thing, and then also have some spa services done? Well, the event part of it took off really quickly. So I never really got to practice the massage therapy part of it. So, and I'm okay with that.
Sure, absolutely.
I'm okay with that. So, so hence the name, the Spa Bar, because, and I love the name. The event part of it took off, and I didn't want to change the name.
Sure.
So I kept the name because I just really loved it.
Got
And
it.
there's a story behind it now.
Yeah, exactly. Now that's a great conversation.
Yeah, exactly.
I love it. So, so coming into Della's House of Giving, and even before you kind of intersected with Kim and going through that process in her inaugural program, what was the spark for this?
So the nonprofit is named after my grandmother, my late grandmother, Della. And she was a giver. She was a cook. She was a dietitian, actually, in a nursing home for over 32 years.
Oh, wow.
So she served several people, and she did it every single day, and she just loved doing it. And I knew I wanted to, first of all, I knew the name was just going to be there. I knew that I would do something in honor of her. And then I had been going out to the community. I had been helping a friend with some mentoring things, going into some of the schools and trying to understand, what's happening with some of the kids there. And we found out that the kids were in need of a lot of attention. Hunger was big. A lot of the kids were stealing food to take back to siblings, and I just really didn't understand, some of the things that was happening.
Yeah.
So I kind of hit the pavement. I started going into some of the communities and kind of understanding, what are we seeing? What's really here? And I found out that there's kids that are hungry out there. 1 in 5 kids are hungry or suffer from food insecurity, which means there's not enough food in the household. Maybe sometimes a parent will have to decide whether or not they're going to feed themselves or their child, or maybe it's just not the right type of food that's there. There could be junk food, or there could just be some food that's not as nutritious, and it was very disheartening, just to kind of see that here we are, and we often overeat, and there's so much food that goes to waste.
Oh yeah, it's just
every
abundance
year.
all around, right?
Yeah, and to know that kids are going home to empty refrigerators. So so I know,
And that affects everything. I mean,
it does.
You can't. I mean, we know how our mood or our focus suffers when we miss a snack.
Yes.
Much less.
Yes, a whole meal or 2 meals
days
or
or-
days
yeah.
without eating. Yeah, and I'd gone into a school, and I was doing some mentoring there, and one of the kids there had, he was one that was stealing food, like putting food back. And so we went into the classroom to kind of do, this was an after school tutoring program. But he'd come up to the chalkboard to do some work, and he wanted to bring his food up. And I said, well, just leave your food there, and then continue your math problem. And then once you're done, you can go back. And, he was just hungry. He was hungry. Wow. And so the kids in the class, they were saying, well, why are you eating like that? Why are you, and he said, well, I'm hungry. And they said, oh, well, too bad. And he said, no, we don't have money. We don't have money. And this was the day after Martin Luther King holiday, which it was a Tuesday, which means when he left school on Friday, more than likely he didn't eat Saturday, Sunday, or Monday.
Oh my gosh.
So, I was there in tears, like, oh my gosh, this, and it's not even so much that, it's not like, hey, I'm hungry. It's like, we don't have the money to even buy the food,
Right.
So that just, I don't know, it's just really difficult to know that you have kids that really are hungry. Yeah.
Yeah.
So.
There's something. I mean, you've got, I mean, that's the basics of life.
Exactly.
That especially in this country, in our society, you just think,
Yeah.
oh, well, that's a given.
Yeah.
Let's focus on X, Y, Z.
Yes.
And when you go in,
Yeah.
so you were already tutoring in some of these you said your after school.
After school tutoring that a lot of the school districts offer. And so with our program, we still offer the after school program. However, we go into apartment communities and some recreation centers, some of churches and things like that, because the goal for me is to hit pavement. We have to go to where the kids are.
Yeah.
You know, when you think about, hey, you can go to a YMCA or hey, you can go over to the rec center. Well, first of all, the parents don't have cars in some cases. They don't have the resources to get their kid over to, you know, a YMCA. They may not have the money to give to that. So we take our program into the apartment communities, and it's a daily program, Monday through Friday, and we help the kids with their homework. We help them to read, which is another component of our organization, and we give them a hot meal every day. So that way we know that they're going to at least have something for the rest of the evening to eat. And then, of course, we're hoping that it will, because again, when you're hungry, like you said earlier, Jason, you know, hungry kids can't concentrate. You know,
Yeah,
they
there's
don't
no
do
way.
well in school because they're hungry. They're not going to be focused.
Yeah.
So our thing is that we want them to know that there's a safe place in their community that they can come every day and they can get food. They can learn how to read. They can, you know, increase their test scores. And we help them with those things. And, of course, mentoring as well.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So, walk me through. I have a bunch of questions. This is just phenomenal. I just love what you're doing. And so, how did you first, even the after school program, even the tutoring? What was that first connection? I mean, you've got your thing going, you know, the spa bar. You've got all of that. What was that first, like, in that particular neighborhood in that way?
So, of course, we only serve underserved communities. So, in going through some of these communities and reaching out to apartment managers, because we talk to a lot of apartment managers to try to understand, of course, if there is a need, which there's usually a need there. When we say underserved, we think about the kids and the schools that they go to. If they are in a school district or a school that is has free or reduced lunches, that's what we consider in those type of communities.
Sure. That's the first indicator.
That's one of the first indicators. But when you're going out into, you know, talking to different apartment managers or some of the churches, and we try to identify, what are you seeing? What do you think is happening in your community? And they're saying, well, you know, some of the kids come home and there's nobody there, right? So there's no one that can help them with their homework, right? There's no one that can help them with their homework. Maybe they're living with a grandparent who, of course, you know, some of the math and some of the, you know, reading may be, you know, a little different than what they used to see when they were in school. So again, there's this barrier there. So the kids aren't learning because they don't have anyone at home to necessarily help them with their homework or to necessarily help them with their reading. So they shut down.
Yeah.
And then maybe, you know, kids need a place to go. You know, they need to feel like, hey, I don't necessarily have to go home or because there's no one there, but it gives them a sense of community as well. So we wanted to get into the community, talk to apartment managers, talk to even parents to kind of say, hey, what would this mean for your community?
Yeah.
And it's, you know, we've had parents that say, you know, I go to work and my child is at home until I get off of work. But just knowing that, hey, there's a place that they can go, still get some food, still get their homework done.
It's life-changing.
It's life-changing, absolutely. And it takes some of the burden off of the parent and off of the child, you know, as well. So that's, you know, kids shouldn't be burdened. You know, we just want them to learn, we want them to go to school, and we want them to feel good about themselves. So they have a lot going on at the schools already. So we want them to be able to come home to their safe community and feel like, hey, I can come here, I can trust the people that are around me because these are the people that that I live with.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So, and forgive me for keep going back, but I even want to even that first spark before you're looking at schools? What's that first inclination for you to say, to even have it be on your radar that there's this issue out there, and that you're going to do something about it? Because I think everyone, if they stop and think, they know there are underserved communities. They know there are kids who, and just people throughout the community that need help in several ways. But taking that first step is always, to me, it's scary.
Very.
And it's getting out of that comfort zone to say, I'm going to do something, even if you don't know what that something is. So when was that moment?
So that moment for me, like I said, I've done so much volunteer work over the last few years, and it's been very important for me to do. I've always known that I would do something great, I will say, something great in some capacity. Often we just don't ever know how we can do that. Mm-hmm. And for me, I've known for several years that I would do something great. I just didn't know what it would mean and how I would do it.
Yeah.
So when you wake up every day and you know that, hey, I'm an entrepreneur, I have a lot of flexibility, and that's the other thing about being an entrepreneur. You have a sense of flexibility, but you also have this sense of urgency, right? Because there's so much that you're doing different than when you were in corporate America. But for me, the main thing is I wanted to position myself to where I did have flexibility to even entertain other things, mm-hmm. And then also have an opportunity to give back, About 2 years ago, I made a goal. I made it a goal to become more involved in the community. So I started to go out and talk to apartment communities just to kind of see what's going on in the community. I became an ambassador at the deck, nice. And I started to really just try to understand what does our community need, what's happening. And the more and more that you hear about hunger, there's more things talking about kids, and I just felt like, hey, there's a connection here. Like, I really do need to find something to do with this, know? And I've always been an advocate of reading. About 6 years ago, I removed television from my home. I've always loved reading, but 6 years ago, I really started to read more books. I didn't want to be necessarily distracted with TV, and that brought me to a different place, a different level in my life. I started to see things differently. I started to respond to things differently. And
in what way? Give me
so, I think I just took away all the things that to me were distractions that didn't feel good in my life, whether that was people or things that I was doing or things that I was involved with. I didn't really do a lot of community service until I gave up TV because I think I was tied to that. I didn't do a lot of things because often once you get off of work, I was in corporate America, you get off of work and then you go home and you watch TV. If you're at home on the weekends, sometimes, they have those reruns and those marathons and
oh yeah. You look up
you could
and it's
be there
6 hours later.
6
right.
hours later, and I'm just like, where's my time going?
Right.
What am I giving back? What am I doing? And I just felt like, there was no, nothing that felt good in my life. I was doing well in corporate America. I was making six figures, and still at the end of the day, I just felt like there's more to do. And I knew that at some point I would have to define what that was in order to be better in my life. And I think, I'm not saying that TV was the only thing that, needed to be removed from my life, because obviously there were other things, but that allowed some other things to come in. When you close one door and, some other things start to happen and, other doors started to open, and I was able to see clear. I wanted to get more involved in the community. I started having more time. I was like, wow, I have more time to do all this great stuff. And I made it a goal to get involved. So I started to volunteer. I started to just be more open to people and to things and to situations. I got involved with the Dallas Women's Foundation. I started to go to some of these meetings and some of the luncheons, and I started to network and talk to people, and it seemed like the same thing. I got to the same point where it was like children, girls, women. It's just everything just started to connect, and then I'm like, we're all trying to serve the same type of purpose. We want a better life for ourselves and for our community. But how do we go about getting that? What do we need to do? And it's involvement. You have to get involved. And I think often when people think about getting involved, we think, oh, I have this already going. I have kids. I have, how can I juggle it all? You find a way.
Yeah.
And that's the main thing for me is I do a lot. I'm a busybody. I'm very active and in the community. And people always say, well, how do you do it all? And I'm like, well, how can I not do it all? I don't look at it as an option. I just go do it.
That's fantastic. Yeah. So I that's a great insight. And so now dive in a little bit on that evolution again. So you jumped in and started the tutoring programs with Edney's apartment communities and all of that. Mm-hmm. And then you saw that the food component was missing actually, and it needed to be there. So then how do you go about formalizing that? I mean, because that's a big leap to say, I'm going to feed some kids.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a big, that gets into resources beyond time and effort.
Yes. And we, so I started to do some research, and of course there's several programs out there that kind of do what we do. However, I'd like to think that, some organizations don't really go into the gut of our communities.
Yeah.
They're kind of lingering maybe on the outskirts because it looks good and it.
Or and even when they are doing it, it's a resource that people can come to them, but that's a big difference from you
going into the community.
Right.
And we had a great thing that happened with our in researching. We found out that the Texas Department of Agriculture does some funding, and so we got involved with that, and that's how we're able to provide a lot of our resources to the kids through the Texas Department of Agriculture. So again, just working with them and other partners in the community has helped tremendously, and we found that it's better to work with people than just trying to do everything for yourself.
Sure.
And that's another thing with nonprofits. With for-profits, it kind of sometimes you think it's about you, and me and my business and how I can make it grow. And with nonprofits, you have to take the ego part of it out because it's no longer about you. And that's the biggest thing is people see me as an entrepreneur, or they may see my business and they think Fatesta, but this really isn't about me. I don't want people to think Della's House of Giving, oh, that's Fatesta's. She founded that organization. I just want them to know that, kids are in need, and I want them to cater to that need.
Absolutely.
Versus to me.
Well, I think there's a great business lesson in that, a for-profit business lesson in that, because that mindset that you get to faster, I think, in the nonprofit side of stepping away from that.
Yes.
There's some great value in doing that
Yes.
on a for-profit and
Absolutely.
saying that it's not about you, it's about
Yes.
the end customer and all of that.
Yes.
So that's really vital. So you partnered with the Texas Department of Agriculture, and again, I want to know sort of step one, like how do you even begin? So even you find out that there are some resources there. What's that next step?
So you find out that there's resources. You of course do contracts, right? You have to put something in writing that says, hey, we're going to help you or we're going to partner with you, and then you start to decide where do you want to target. Do you want to go? Are you just for North Texas? Are you just Dallas? Are you is this a global effort? For us, we serve children in the North Texas area. So currently we serve in, Fort Worth, Arlington, Dallas, Fannin County, Northeast Texas. So we're kind of just covering, different parts of North Texas right now. But you have to find out, where do you want to go? Where do you want to serve? Where's the need? And then from there you start to identify what type of facilities do you want to have. Do you want to go to apartment communities? Do you want to go to churches? Do you want to go to rec centers? Because there's kids everywhere, and these kids still have the same need. So you
Yeah.
just kind of, identify where do you want to go. And, once you do that, you start to get help from your apartment managers, help marketing, passing out flyers, letting the kids know and the parents know that, hey, there's something here. And then we just go in and, we start to serve.
Well, but what is that in the resource side? On getting the food. Are you cooking the food yourself?
Yes,
Are you
okay.
this or that? That's what I.
Yes. So we have, we actually rent a commercial kitchen. And we do everything. So we're purchasing food, we're cooking the food, we're packaging the food, and we also we deliver the food, and then we have a staff, right?
Well, and that's
so
what I
we
was gonna say, who's the-
volunteers.
the we and-
And I say we have volunteers. We have a staff that comes in and helps us to prepare the food, cook the food, package the food up to where it goes out to the communities, right? And then we have site coordinators that are on hand that when the kids come there every day, they help to pass out the food, and then the volunteers as well to help to do their homework.
Awesome.
Yeah. So it's
That's so great.
it's a little fine-tuned engine, but yeah.
So yeah, walk me on the behind the scenes of that. I mean, I couldn't imagine not having someone with your skill set from that entrepreneurial mind behind this. I couldn't imagine someone, in your position trying to start this without those skills, because it's,
Yeah.
I imagine the infrastructure on coordination and everything gets really big really fast.
Yes. It gets big really fast because of course, the need and the kids. So typically, an apartment community, when we go and we make some calls and we find out, hey, do you guys have kids out there? Yes, we have a lot of kids, and we want you guys here. We want you to help them. In some cases, there may be 30 kids in a community, and in some cases we may have 100 kids in the community.
Wow.
So just again, depending on the community, that's going to depend on the number of volunteers that we need, and then of course the number of staff that we have to accommodate that community.
Yeah. So, have you had any? Well, I want to dive into that in a second. But so again, on that infrastructure, how are you coordinating all this from the basics? I know it's kind of second nature to you now, but to me, that's wow and overwhelming and everything.
So I do a lot of it myself, believe it or not. I do a lot of it from hiring. Well, right now we constantly are hiring, and we're looking for. I shouldn't say hiring. We're looking for volunteers, right? So we constantly, through word of mouth, we get, and often when we do have staff that we hire, because sometimes the thing that we have to do is we have to have a constant in the kids' lives. So. Right. We want the same site coordinator to be on site because we want the kids to see the same people every day. The volunteers can definitely come and help package the food or maybe tutoring, but when it comes to seeing the same person every day, we want that to be someone from our staff. So we typically have site coordinators there so that the kids will know them every day. Yeah. But for me, I do everything from and I shouldn't say everything, because now we have a volunteer system where we ask for volunteers. We kind of have a volunteer bank, so volunteers will go on our web page and they can sign up to say, hey, I want to volunteer. Okay. And then from there we send those volunteers through a background check to make sure that they meet our criteria as far as being around kids or
Sure.
serving kids, and then they can come out into some of the communities that we serve in. As far as our staff, we kind of just do word of mouth. People may be interested, or sometimes we actually hire from the community. Mm-hmm. Maybe a person who knows the kids well, or it's kind of like the mama bear of the community. Right. We bring them in, and then
to me, would be the ideal.
Yes, that's ideal. That's ideal. And that's kind of what we see typically. We bring somebody in from the community that we know the kids already know, and there's no issues with, getting to know somebody or, something like that. So.
And as simple as, are you using Like, what are you using to organize all this? Is it just spreadsheets, and then how deciding on food and what's going and coordinating?
So yes, so and I'm sorry, it's a lot. So
Oh,
it's
I know.
definitely so.
And that's why I try to break it down, because
Yeah.
to you, you're just doing it.
Yes.
And I'm so interested in how, you
Yeah,
know,
yeah.
step by step.
So yeah, we do spreadsheets. We kind of keep track of everything as far as our communities goes through a whiteboard system. You know, how many kids are in this community, and then we have a menu that goes out every day. We pretty much serve the same thing to all of the kids every day. Unless the community is different as far as their diet or something like that. We serve a very cool community, Vickery Meadows. I don't know if you've heard of that one, but it's a refugee community.
Wow.
And we have partnered with Heart House Dallas, and it's been a wonderful experience. But of course, we see children from different cultures, so of course that can be also a concern with as far as the food goes. So yeah, we basically just kind of just have a big menu, a big board, and we just kind of say, hey, this is what we're having today. We send it out to the communities, and voila.
Awesome. How would you just communicating through email, and it's coordination with the volunteers and staff? Or?
Email, text message, phone. Yeah, it's very fast. It's a fast pace. But my job doesn't seem as hard anymore because we have people now that can help do this. But originally it was very fast paced. But because we had so much to do, we had a lot of catching up to do because we had a lot of people calling saying, "Hey, we need help. Come out. Can you come and help us?" And now we're kind of getting an idea of the communities that we're serving, and so it's not as fast paced. But we feed over 300 kids a day.
Wow.
So
That's so awesome.
it's a lot.
Good job. Oh my gosh. So to me, that's going to be the hardest of any of these endeavors is deciding. I mean, because you've got finite resources and a certain amount of time, and your goal is to get bigger and bigger, of course. But at some point, it's just you have to say yes to some and no to some, and
Yeah. That's hard. That's hard. Well, one, because typically some of our apartment communities, we house in clubhouses.
Okay.
So sometimes apartment communities will give us an apartment to house out of, and then we can go there and do everything. But in some cases where we know that the kids may be hungry still, we have a need there, but they don't have a clubhouse. Maybe the apartments are too old. They never, had clubhouses. So our goal is to find maybe a church that's close by that we can still serve the food.
yeah.
Yeah.
Because you're doing more too because it's expanding not just in apartment complexes and kids you serve, but also because that need expanded from just them showing up after school. Hasn't that been spreading even more of like food and meals back to that they could take back home and things like that? Is that?
Yeah, so our program is designed right now so that the kids eat where they are. So they come and they eat inside of our program. Because one, so the kids don't necessarily take food back home.
Okay.
Because one, we want to make sure that they're eating the food, and we
Yeah.
want to make sure that it's not, being eaten by a parent or,
Sure.
a visitor or something like that
Yeah.
who may be in the apartments or the community or whatever. But we're hoping to scale to where we're able to have them take meals home, or maybe even service an entire community, whether it's children or adults or whoever who's hunger is hunger,
Yeah.
right? So definitely we'd like to see that in the future, and we're working on different things now to see if that's something that we can make happen.
Awesome. And you recently expanded into to this latest.
Yeah, we're
school
now in Northeast Texas. So my hometown is a small town called Honey Grove. It's the sweetest town in Texas. And we actually have a school district there. And it's an after school where now the kids at that school have a place to go and do their homework where they're on the school grounds. And now we've extended into Bonham ISD. So that's an even bigger school district, and we're really excited about that. We got the superintendent's approval, and we're really excited about this project. So,
Congratulations.
yeah,
That's great.
thank you. We're excited. Thank you.
That's wonderful. Has there been any pushback along the way from any apartment complex or families or anything?
Well, I think the pushback has been maybe apartment communities who don't necessarily get it. They think about, hey, this is going to be too much for us, or, my office manager can only do so much, and we don't want to take away from our tenants or our residents to, do more. So for that, I mean, obviously, every community isn't a fit. Because we
Sure.
can't make you see the need.
Right.
So it's that part has been really challenging in some communities. Not most are very positive and very receptive to what we're doing. So it's
Yeah.
been really good experience.
Wonderful. What would you say is sort of the biggest win so far?
Ooh, the biggest win. I think getting my hometown, the buy-in from my hometown was big for me, because I've always wanted to give back to that community. You think about, hey, if I ever won this $1 million, what would you do? People always ask that.
Right.
Not that I won $1 million, but
Right.
they
Right.
ask, what would you do? And you'll say, oh, I would go back home and I would give, And, I don't think you have to win a lottery to go to help people,
Yeah.
to help a community, or to give back. Giving is just, it takes so little to give. I think once you remove that thing and what you think about giving, most people think, oh, I don't have the money. Well, giving isn't about money. Obviously it helps if you can, give monetarily, but giving is about time. It's about a desire, right? It's a want. It's a desire to do something great. So for me, it was very important that I got the buy-in from my community, for them to understand that, hey, there's a need here, and there's someone willing to come back and help the community. So that was big for me. It was great, and I'm glad that we're able to help the students of Honey Grove.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's so wonderful. So what's next? What's that expansion plan look like for this? And
Well, of course, right now we are just trying to get through this incubator program
sure.
that Kim has. Oh my gosh, he keeps us really busy. And again, just you're able to see a different perspective and, how you think about things. But of course, hunger is always a concern for me, regardless if it's local or global. Hunger is hunger. So I think for us, we'd like to see our organizations scale into other communities, whether it's North Texas, which we're gonna, still focus there, maybe some other areas, some other states in the future. So I think there's a need there,
That's
and
great.
I
So-
would like to see that.
You have an audience, whoever's watching, so how can we help? How can people help you, and what are you looking for that expansion? What's going to get you into those more communities?
So, funds. We're looking always for donations. And when we talk about donations, of course, monetary donations is always great, but people say, what else do you need? The things that helps us to serve kids, right? We need plates, we need forks, napkins, cups, food. We need food. So all the things that think about from the time that you sit down and you eat, right? The things that you require to eat, we need utensils. We need the food. We need more space. We're hoping to build out a kitchen, a bigger kitchen, a larger kitchen. And that would be very great if we had the resources to do that. And then, of course, we're hoping to get vans for delivery so that we can go out to
that's
more people, more
Certainly.
places, and then we have the space to do it all. So all those things, and then of course just time, like to volunteer, people to volunteer, the effort is just, we've had so much support just in the last year, and I just imagine that times 3, times 4, times 5, times 6, because I know it's just going to get that big, but I know the support is also going to be there as well. So, and then of course you can always make a monetary donation on our website.
Della's House of Giving.
It's dhogiving.org.
That's way easier. dhogiving.org.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, I think it's phenomenal what you're doing, and I think that the combination of the cause itself, how well you're running it, and then the jet fuel of Cause Studio, going through that.
Yes.
I just think it's going to expand and be serving so many more kids so fast.
Yes, I'm excited. I know it's going to be big.
I really think so.
Thank you.
So awesome. So just head to the website. It's the best place.
Yeah, head to the website where you're able to enter in your information, your email information if you want additional information. Of course, you can always email us. It's also on the website to see where, hey, can I volunteer, or what do you need? that type of thing. We'll answer back, and that's the best place.
People can follow along on Twitter.
Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and DHO Giving. We're there at Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter as well.
Wonderful.
Follow us.
Thank you so much for being on the show.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you for what you do.
Thank you so much. It's been great.
First, I'd like to thank Kimberly O'Neill for introducing me to Fatesta in the first place. Now, I couldn't even hold it together when Kim first told me about what Fatesta was doing, so I'm kind of proud of myself for keeping it together during the interview, because what she is doing to help those children is monumental and so moving. Please reach out to Fatesta and Della's House of Giving on social and the site, dhogiving.org. See how you can help.